Hey folks, today we're going to look at my top 10 sci-fi movie logos. I'm a huge science fiction geek, so I thought, why not create a video that combines two of my loves? So let's get going. Okay, so these logos aren't necessarily in any particular order. I'm just going to go through them, but I have left some of my favourite ones until the end. So let's get on with the first one. This is the OCP logo, and it is from Robocop. Now, this is probably one of the earliest logos that I remember that looked like a clever logo to me. Now, this was obviously out in the 80s. I was in my teens in the 80s, and I was into design back then, but not so much logos. I just like design, like comic books and things like that. And the OCP logo was kind of the first ones that I thought was quite clever because of the way they'd hidden the letters O, C, and P into the logo. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the original one. I had a look around, but I have seen some people have this version of the logo kicking around the web. Now, I don't know if that's just so that people can make out that there is a letter P in there, and so they've just added that extra line. I'm pretty sure that this is the original logo, and yeah, like I say, it's kind of one of the first ones which really caught my attention and let me get an idea that a logo could be clever as well as serve a purpose. So that's the OCP logo from Robocop. And here we have it. Here's my next logo in my list of top 10, and it's the logo for Recall. Can you guess which film this is from? It's from the film Total Recall, and it's actually the name of the business in the film where you can go and have the memories implanted of your secret agent identity or whatever fantasy you want. You would go to Recall and they would implant it. Now, I really like this logo because it's basically, if you kind of look at it from a distance, in the middle, the pixels are starting to form the letter R for the first letter of the word recall. Now, it's not, some people can't see it and it's not very obvious, but if you kind of do that and kind of round off the edge of the letter R, if I flick back again, you can kind of see how they would come together to form the letter R in a digital pixel format, like they're forming these new memories inside your head. And I always thought that was a really clever play on the logo here, and obviously the word recall, you're recalling memories. Now, this has had a sequel out recently, so you may know the name if you've been to see the sequel and you've seen the original. And some people pronounce it differently. I pronounce it Tyrell Corporation. Some people call it the Tyrrell Corporation, but it's the bad guys from Blade Runner. And this again is another logo where you've got sort of some hidden elements to it. Not that hidden, but we have the owl here and the capital T forming the body of the owl for Tyrrell, and you have the wording going around it, genetic replicants, more human than human, because that's what they make. They make the replicants which are being hunted down in Blade Runner. The thing with this is, as well, is there is an owl in the movie, and Deckard, who's kind of the main hero in the first film, played by Harrison Ford, when he first goes to the Tyrrell Corporation in the film, there is an owl flying around, and it's a replicant. It's not, it's not a real owl, but that's kind of shown the sort of levels that they can build these fake animals and fake humans. They're pretty much indistinguishable from the real thing, and as such they have the owl as part of their logo. I just think it's a really nice design. I mean, even the shield shape that contains the logo has kind of got that owl, the top of the owl's head, that kind of owl shape, and the T is like kind of talons as well, which the owl have. It's just a really, really nicely executed logo. Now this next one is the Umbrella Corporation, and they are the bad guys from the Resident Evil franchise. Now the reason I like this is it has that feeling about it that it is a warning symbol. It kind of reminds me of the symbols that you get for biohazards and toxins. It's got that look to it, but also as well from the games, and that they're based in Japan, kind of East Asia, Japan, and in that sort of culture, red is the color of life, and white is associated with death, and so you've kind of got life and death in this logo. Life being from the kind of the food and the things that the Umbrella Corporation manufacture, but also the death side from the viruses and the weapons that they produce as well. So it's kind of got this double meaning to it. And white can also have a meaning of purity. So it's kind of they're masking themselves. They're kind of masking themselves with this purity, that they're a good company when actually they're not. They're really quite evil. So I thought it was a really clever use of colours when it comes to the logo for the Umbrella Corporation. And here we have Weyland Corp. Anyone know what film this is from? Yep, it's from the Aliens franchise. And Weyland Corp are the trillionaire Peter Weyland, who creates a lot of technology that allows the human race to go and explore other planets and settle on other planets. And he also creates the synthetic humans like David from the franchise. And I just really like the simplicity of this logo. It's obviously a W, but it's kind of, you could look at it as one being one W, but then if you look at it again, it's almost like you've got these stacks either side. There could be wings, and then you've got the three triangles in the middle, which create a W on their own. The stacks could be levels of business or industry, and actually I've got this counts as one logo, but in the timeline of the films, in the year 2099, Weyland Corp took over another tech company called Yutani, and it became the Weyland Yutani Corp, and they've cleverly integrated that Y into the W. So you've got the W here, the main one, because the Weyland were the ones that took over and absorbed Yutani, so they are the dominant company. And then in the background, you've got these three shapes here, which form a Y in the middle of the W. So there's some great logo work going on in these movies to create these corporations. There's a lot of thought goes into it. They're not just kind of thrown together. There's a lot of storytelling going on within the logos themselves, as much as there is in the films and in the movies. And I love that. I love that about these elements that are just on boxes and on the sides of ships, and they're not really talked about, but they have their own life within the film, and I love that. I love that about certain, especially sci-fi films. I love that. And continuing on with the Aliens theme is the Aliens logo, which I've liked for a long time, because it's very simple. It's there's word mark that says Aliens, and then just letter I with that kind of opening, as if the face hugger is about to come out of the egg and kind of just smother your face. But it's also the way the letters are the tracking on the word, and the spacing between each of the letters. It's just gives that distance and kind of openness and, you know, like empty space where the alien creature kind of hides, and you've kind of got this sliver of light where the alien could be. It just gives off that feeling. I mean, obviously, when you're looking at these logos, having watched the films, you have an image and a feeling of the film already, and you can then place that onto the logos. But I do think if you take a step back and look at the logo as well, then it does give off these certain feelings and emotions as well. And the Aliens logo is one of those for me. It encapsulates what the movie's about. Onto something a little bit lighter now, and that is Back to the Future. It's kind of got that. It's got that 80s thing for me. It's not too 80s. It's not the kind of the 80s was quite neon, a lot of neon stuff. With the Back to the Future one, it's got that gradient on it, and it just has a lot of movement to it because it's curved, but it's also kind of leaning in, and you've got the arrow going back into the future, you know, which kind of just reiterates what the name of the film is. It's just really bright, it's exciting. Again, it's another one which really encapsulates the film for me. It's just, it's fun as well, you know. It's got that kind of blockbustery feel to it, and you know, as soon as you see it, you don't even need to read the words when you catch it at the corner of your eye. You just know it's the Back to the Future logo, and I think that's one of the successful things that you kind of want for a logo, is that people just instantly recognize it. They're not even looking at the words; it's the shape and how it's made up. You know, you kind of see that arrow first, and even with the words "to" and "the," just in that little square on their own, you know, just stacked there. It just, people will recognize it just, you know, straight away. I think it's a great logo. Just that orange and yellow, and then you've got the grey outline, and it works amazingly well on black. It just really, really stands out. So I really love that logo because it's just, I suppose, again, memories. It gives me happy feelings of seeing the films back in the day, but I still love them today as well. Zorg Industries. Now, might be a little bit trickier for some people to recognise what this one's from. It's another evil corporation from a sci-fi film, and it's actually from the movie The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis. And Zorg is a person in the film, and he's played by Gary Oldman, and he's a bit of a Fruit Loop, just like this mad industrialist again who creates weapons and stuff. But he's also in cahoots with what's known as the Great Evil, which is coming to destroy the Earth. And this is where the logo kind of comes into play, because the Great Evil is essentially a planet, and it's a planet which is coming towards Earth. So you've got the Zorg logo here with this massive circle. You know, the O is greatly exaggerated, and that kind of represents the great evil which is coming towards Earth. But also Zorg creates weapons and munitions. So you could also say that the O could represent sort of a sight or the barrel of a weapon as well. So his logo really encapsulates everything that he is. It encapsulates that evil in both the planet and the weapons that he creates within the movie. It's a really striking logo, and very well executed. I just think it's a really good one, and it's kind of, this one's top of my list in terms of the shape and what it represents. For me, I really, really, really like the Zorg logo, and I like Gary Oldman's character in the film as well. He's just completely bonkers, and I really like that. So we're going to go on to what is my favourite logo, and it may surprise some people, but this is it here. So you might want to get your sunglasses on. It's the Flash Gordon logo from the 1980s film. It harks back to the kind of the serials, the black and white serials from before then. But I just love this. I just love the color. It's similar in a way to the Back to the Future one, so I really like that as well. But this one just says action to me. I just love it. I suppose it's cliched, but it's meant to be from those early serials where you had all the cliffhangers at the end of every show, and it was a bit over the top and a bit cheesy. Special effects weren't great, but the big thing for me, I suppose, about Flash Gordon in the 80s was that Queen soundtrack, and it was just an amazing movie soundtrack. And that whole, as much as the acting was cheesy and special effects weren't brilliant because of the time that it was made in the 80s, but I just think the overall thing with the film is great, and this logo just encapsulates all of that. You've just got even the way the Flash Gordon's written and that lightning, it just kind of reminds me of Ming the Merciless eyebrows, and kind of the high collars. It's got that kind of, the serifs on the letters and that curve just emulate the costumes that you have in there, and you've got the very sort of 1930s look to it, and you've got that planet with the silver circle going around it. It just says sci-fi to me. This logo, it just says science fiction. It's just classic, and it's my number one. This one, Zorg Industries is really clever. I love the Weyland Corporation logos, and they all do really good jobs of representing the companies and the evil that they're doing within the films. But in terms of a pure sci-fi logo, I love this Flash Gordon one. The color is just amazing. It's the same. I mean, this is the album cover from Queen for the film is the same. It's just a big yellow square with that in the middle, and it's just fantastic. Absolutely love it. Now, I've got one extra one, or few, that I want to show, which are all on one slide, because I probably couldn't do a sci-fi movies logo without mentioning this series of films, but I don't particularly like the logo from the films, and that is Star Wars. I've never really liked the Star Wars typeface. I just always found it a little bit jarring. I don't know, I just don't like the way the S goes into the T or the R goes into the S. I'm just not a big fan of it. But what I do really like are all the symbols which are throughout the Star Wars universe. For the Empire, you've got the Rebel Alliance, you've got the Jedi Order, you've got the First Order, the Republic, the New Republic, and there are many, many more. You've got Boba Fett's Mandalorian emblems. There's just so many of them. And if you watch, I think it's The Force Awakens, and they go to one of the planets, I'm sure there's a part where there's lots of flags and stuff hanging, and they've got all the symbols of all the different kind of places in the Star Wars universe who've all got their own badges and things. And it's just, it's its own, encyclopedia of symbolism, and they all mean something. And I'm not going to go into that now. That might be a video that we could do later on, because I do love the Star Wars universe, and I kind of know a lot about it, but that is for another time. But I couldn't get through a top 10 sci-fi movie logos without at least mentioning Star Wars. So that's my top 10. Now, you may agree or disagree. If you do disagree, I'd love to know which logos you would put in place of my top 10. Leave your suggestions in the comments below. Give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel to get notified whenever I release new videos. And until I see you next time, stay creative, folks.